here's Brody Brazil.
You know, I'm pretty sure that I've made this exact video before, just with different team and city names. I mean, stop me if you've heard this. There's a baseball team out there with a bunch of uncertainty. Their old stadium has issues. The new stadium they want has a ton of complications. I mean, partly in fault of the baseball team itself. Their current stadium, which they're about to try and use, is a minor league facility. It's the spring training home of the Yankees, Steinbrenner Field in Tampa. That's not a forever situation. So somebody else, a group from Orlando, pops up and says, hey, we're the Dreamers, and we might love to take you in. We'll buy the team. We'll move the team. We are searching for a major league team to call ours. It could be expansion, but you know what? Relocation would be fine too. That is exactly what's going on here in the state of Florida. Orlando, they've been around for a while, this group called the Dreamers. They kind of went quiet for a bit. I'll explain why exactly I think that happened, but now they're clearly emerging at the Rays' most vulnerable time, and it's my belief, my instinct, that they're going to make a huge push to try and lure in the Tampa Rays to move to Orlando. The Rays situation, let's first establish this, and I assume most of you are familiar, but they've got a lot of stuff going on. It's basically three things. I tried to narrow it down to the most simple way to put this. A lot of stuff going on, but three big headlines here. Number one, the roof and interior damage to Tropicana Field. It's still going to cost $56+ million and take a full year to repair. And none of that is even on the table yet. They've talked about it. It's not approved. There's a bunch of controversy. Who wants to spend $60 million or more of public money, because it's going to have to come from the city of St. Pete, to fix a stadium for what, 1 or 2 or maybe 3 more years at best? If you're going to spend that money, you want it to be a long-term investment, not a quick fix. But it is part of the lease agreement between the team and the city of St. Petersburg. So that one is very much up in the air. Can you go back to the Trop ever again? Nobody knows. For this upcoming year, the Rays are going to spend $15 million to borrow Steinbrenner Field. Yeah, it's the spring training home of the Yankees. It's also where their single-A baseball team plays all of its regular season games. They're displacing that single-A team so that the Rays can move into, a minor league spring training ballpark, kind of like what the A's are doing out here in California, up in Sacramento. So that's not a permanent solution for the long term. In fact, it's not even really more than a temporary thing, because I think the Yankees are only good with this for 1 single year. It's not like they can stay at Steinbrenner Field even multiple years from what it sounds like. And then there's the new stadium deal. The Rays had pitched it. Everybody was on board. All of a sudden, the city and county voted in. They vote yes on approving the bonds and moving the financing forward for it. But then the team says, whoa, wait a second. You delayed 1 month, which caused this project to move us into the 2029 season instead of the 2028 season when everybody was initially planning on it. Because Hurricane Milton, by the way, ran through the state of Florida. Everything got delayed. But the Rays said, it's delayed 1 month. That pushes us back an entire year, and we can't afford that all by ourselves anymore. So we're not really sure if we're in or out. Wait a second, city and county voted yes. Now it's up to the Rays to either fund their portion of this and make up whatever that difference they say it is or not. And we'll know by, I think, the end of March if that's going to happen or not, if they're in or out on that. They would also either control all the land currently at the Tropicana Field site or not. But if they back out, they don't get to keep the land. So all those things going on in Tampa, but here's what's going on in Orlando. And these renderings are a couple summers old now. I think all of this came out in the middle of 2023, but Orlando came out with these renderings, a glass dome ballpark, because of course it's a glass dome ballpark. And look at how the dome extends all the way out there to center field and far beyond. It's a stadium, it's a mall. I'm sure there's a shopping center, there's retail, there's everything you would expect in these renderings. This one image though, this one gets me, all right? So they've got a jumbotron going on there. See where the baseball action is taking place on that big screen? That is 1,000% an image from a baseball game being played at the Oakland Coliseum. I know that because the catcher there, who I can't really identify, is wearing green and gold. But I know the background, the color, that parabolic dish, all that stuff. So they're literally using the one stadium that is for sure going away in their imagery and renderings here. I mean, look, what do I think of this? It looks like a big greenhouse. It's going to get really hot in there with all that sun and all that trapped air. That's a lot of air conditioning. but it's what the Orlando Dreamers are dreaming up from a rendering standpoint. These are the 2023 specs, so I don't know if they've updated this, but I went back and did the research because I did a video on this in the summer of 2023. They said 45,000 seats in that stadium. That seems like a lot. Honestly, these days, I think 40 is probably the magic number, but whatever. It's a dome stadium. Yeah, there's retail. There's office space. There's 1,000 hotel rooms. You've heard this before. And in 2023, it was already going to cost $1.7 billion. I would bet you that here in 2025 already, it's more like 2 point something. They were asking for $975 million of public funding to go along with this project. Now, it's also important to state this here during the video. Tampa to Orlando, and this is with no traffic. I get it. If you're a Florida native, you're saying, whoa, 90 minutes? That's like 2.5 hours. 90 minutes with no traffic, so that gives you an idea of about 90 miles distance between Tampa and Orlando. And the point why I'm bringing that up is that it's so unlikely Major League Baseball would ever consider coexisting in these two markets. Right? And I get it. There used to be San Francisco and Oakland, and there's two teams in Southern California in the Los Angeles area, and the same thing with New York. But to have 3 teams in Florida, but 2 of them separated by such a short distance, I don't ever see expansion happening in Orlando. I think if you're in Orlando, the one way you think you'll get a team is to probably move the Rays. The Rays would be blocking you because they were there first. They are still there. And until they're gone, there's a team that's way too close to your market for you to get another team, like an expansion team. Orlando has 74 million tourists per year. Why do I bring that up? Because Las Vegas touts their big number. Oh, tourism, it's what's going to help the A's. It's what's going to fill 33% of A's games in Las Vegas. Tourism. I don't know that tourists are coming to Las Vegas to go watch Major League Baseball games. I really don't. If you stand at the airport and you just look at the crowd coming in, I just don't know that that's a typical family baseball crowd that's coming into Vegas to take in a game. But I digress. Orlando has almost twice the tourists per year as Las Vegas, and I'll get into why that's important later on. Now, earlier I said it felt like the Orlando Dreamers, like they emerged, and then they kind of backed off all of this for a while, and now they've reemerged. This is something I sadly wasn't even aware of until recently, that Pat Williams passed away July 2024. Now, he was co-founder of the Orlando Magic. He was, as you can see here, a huge part of the Orlando Dreamers. What I understand now is his financial advisor has taken over kind of a similar role as what Pat was doing to try and live on this legacy. Pat's wife, Ruth, of I think 27 years, had this quote, "I'm just so happy that Pat's dream of baseball in Orlando is living on. I think Barry Larkin and others are going to make this happen. I think fans in Orlando want baseball." Barry Larkin, you say? That's correct. The Hall of Famer and the lifetime Red superstar shortstop, ooh, tongue twister, is now an official ambassador, advisor, all of the above to the Orlando Dreamers. A 25-year resident who has raised his family, his 3 children in Orlando. It's where he lives with his wife right now. He's about to be a grandfather. Congratulations on that. Says he's all in to help. Well, of course he is. He's now on the payroll. He also says Rob Manfred, baseball's commissioner, told him that Orlando is, quote, an interesting and realistic opportunity. And Barry's quote was this. I listened to the entire press conference of what he said. "It's become apparent to me that Orlando is the most compelling market in the country for the next MLB franchise." As in next expansion one or the next home of an MLB franchise. Darren Stoltzfus of WESH Television in Orlando, Darren, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, had a couple of, I almost said tweets on X, but that doesn't make sense. He had a couple posts on X about this event, which I believe Darren attended. Hall of Famer Barry Larkin says Rob Manfred has told him MLB is prioritizing stability amidst volatility. And I did hear this quote exactly said in the press conference. One thing Orlando is not is volatile. Sorry, let me try that again. One thing Orlando is not is volatile. One thing Orlando is stable. And I know Larkin was talking about how cities can't waver in what they're going to do or not. And he even referenced the A's situation, not so much the Oakland part of it, but being in Sacramento and not knowing ultimately if Las Vegas was a sure thing. He said the commissioner wants stability. He says Orlando is stable. Darren also had this other post saying, if I understand correctly, the Dreamers say they have $450 million committed in private funds to go towards a new dome stadium in Orlando. They believe they can eventually match TDT tax dollars to go 50-50 on funding a nearly $2 billion stadium next to Aquatica/SeaWorld. And TDT tax dollars, basically tourism tax dollars, would go 50-50 in funding $2 billion. So, what are the takeaways on this? I think my position is probably obvious, but like I said at the very start here, the Dreamers are emerging right here, right now. The timing of this. When the Rays are most vulnerable to relocation. Oh, all of a sudden there's issues with the city and the county, and the roof got ripped off of Tropicana Field because of Hurricane Milton. And now the Dreamers are like, hey, welcome back. We're still here. And so it's interesting that they are now at the corner of the baseball season reemerging and all this stuff. Like, they are presenting themselves at a very opportune time. I would also say, though, for as much as you think the Rays may not like this, the Rays can use this as leverage. Even if the Rays aren't willing to sell, even if they're not willing to move the team, sell the team, reshape the team, whatever. If they're going to stay in Tampa or St. Pete or wherever, they can still use the Orlando Dreamers as leverage against the city of St. Pete, against Pinellas County. They can easily do that by saying, well, Orlando's 90 minutes away. We'll be right up the road if you need us. And maybe even as soon as like a temporary season, right? If they're going to play 1 year in Tampa, and then they said, you know what, we're still the Tampa Rays, but we're going to go play at the Disney complex for year 2 while the Trop is not fixed and while we're still negotiating for a new stadium. We're just going to go temporarily be up in Orlando. Call us if you need us. And then you know what happens next. Temporary turns into more permanent. Orlando is going to promote their tourism a lot. They've already said it in the press conference. They've already bandied it quite about a bit. Did anybody say that? Bandied it quite about a bit? They have twice the tourism, as I mentioned before, of Las Vegas. I don't know how many families are going to Disney World and thinking, let's also catch a baseball game, but maybe so. Maybe a lot more than Las Vegas, considering, again, who the demographic is that's probably visiting Orlando versus visiting Vegas. And lastly, I'll close it out by saying, I feel like I've seen this movie before, right? The whole situation is textbook. It's textbook Major League Baseball, too. People say this happens across all sports. Yeah, maybe to some degree, but this just seems like baseball's move lately. Whether it's the A's situation, obviously the Rays are having issues. Don't forget the Royals, who had a bunch of public money shut down. They wanted a new stadium. Now they're not going to get it. Now they might move to Kansas City, Kansas instead of Kansas City, Missouri. Same thing with the Chiefs. And the White Sox are trying to get that new ballpark on the South Loop. And if they don't get it, what are they going to do? I've seen this movie before, and I do not like it. And I'm not here to tell Orlando that they don't deserve a team. That's not true, but you don't deserve to rip one away because a roof got ripped off of Tropicana Field. And same thing with the way the Rays are operating here and leverage and all this stuff. This shouldn't be like this for the fans. This should all be done in a much different way. It's almost going the worst way possible. Every time there's a fork in the road, I'm talking about for the fans, it's going in the worst possible direction. If you're a Tampa Bay Rays fan, it keeps going in the worst direction possible. And now this. And now somebody else pokes their head in and says, hello, we're here. We're ready for you. So in my opinion, the push is on. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Also, while you're down there, quick thumbs up on this video. That will greatly help me and this video and this channel. And one more favor to ask, while you're down there, make sure you're already subscribed to this channel. That way I can definitely see you back here next time.